WDMA. We're going to be talking about testing today, as usual, right? And results and ideas for what to test. So yesterday we had a bit of a thing going. I got almost 400 views. That's a lot for me. I average about 250 a day, which is pretty good, I think. My my daughter says, "Yeah, but Dad, you get real views. You get real people." So anyway, we talked about do this or die, and it was about the ad agency world. And what I really wanted to talk about. Let's see if I can get this. I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the real story behind "There's a Sucker Born Every Minute." Because that's the big heart of advertising, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But before we do, I want to go over to Andrew Ettinger, who is a supporter. Full disclosure, he's a supporter of WDMA, and he knows how to boil things down to simple. And so we're going to try and get we're going to try and get Andrew's thing to work here. And here it goes. Okay, here we go.
75% of our business comes from existing clients, but we don't spend enough money on our existing clients. For 43 cents every month, for $5 a year, you can own a client forever. You can create a barrier to entry so when they need your service, they're not going online and typing in "a roofer near me." They're typing in the name of your company. Just doing a little survey after 6 months of reaching a home. If you went into that home and asked them to name a roofer, 9 out of 10 of those people will name the piece that they've gotten for 6 months, and only 3 of those 10 could name another person. So think about how strong that is, so that when they do need your service, they're going to think about you.
Okay, so when they do need your service, $5 for 6 months, and that's not a bad estimate. Andrew's Best Postcards does postcards, okay? He's probably, I would say, a direct competitor with Postcard Mania, which I talked about yesterday, Joy Gendusa, who is not a supporter of WDMA, though she should be. I've mentioned her a lot. Andrew has a way of boiling it down. And what he's basically saying is you can do your digital transformation, you can do digital ads all you want. But when people think of your company in that context, they will probably just type in "roofer near me." And if you look at Angie's List, if you type in "roofer near me," what comes up is Angie's List and other aggregators, Yelp and other things, believe it or not, that aren't you, right? Your name may come up, but it's coming up through an aggregator where there's another 100 other roofers could be from miles around. I typed something like that for a town in Kentucky, and I got people from 3 other states coming up on the same page, because that's the way digital works, okay? Or you can get right in there with your postcard and on a regular basis do it. One other thing I know is that Andrew does testing, and I did tickle a little bit of a firestorm yesterday. So here was my article yesterday, "Do This or Die," and it was about advertising, right? And I mentioned Postcard Mania, who's growing. They added 7% more people, and I also mentioned Brad Kugler at Direct Mail 2.0. I think I also mentioned Andrew. And I got a whole bunch of questions and comments. Brad chimed in and he said that it's hard to get a broadly published case study that thoroughly explains what gives them an edge over the competitors. Very few, if any, want their competitors to know how they get better results. Well, I can tell you, if it makes it to this show, their competitors probably won't see it. Because one of the great things about testing is your competitors don't necessarily see it, right? They can't see both pieces. They only see the piece they got, even if they're a decoy on your list, right? Or even if they got their mother to write in and say, "I'm interested in a new furnace," or something. They still don't see both pieces. It's very, very difficult to see all the testing that's going on, right? Okay, and I said thank you to Brad. He does have case studies on Direct Mail 2.0. Morgan chimed in, and I've been to 16 hours of their training. Some of it was by permission of Brad, but the trainers didn't know. and some of it I just signed up for the emails that they send out. And just to see if I could see one valid A-B split mentioned ever. No. Sorry. I offered to help Brad. I offered to help their clients. I've actually worked with one of their clients fairly closely setting up valid testing. But interestingly, their client didn't understand it. You know, and here's a big problem with educating these people is that direct mail 2.0 hasn't opened their doors to their clients who are mainly printers. The printers I've worked with that use direct mail 2.0 have told me about their clients, but they haven't explained the process to their clients adequately. So, for example, they did a this was for a college, and they did a series of mailings, and they put tracking codes on the website, but the QR code on the mailing did not go back to the landing page to track it right to that tracking code, and so there wasn't a connection, and it just took them to the main website, and the pages were tracked except the one that would have tracked back to the mailing. I don't know if I explained that very well, but call me and you'll find out. So anyway, here's a link in yesterday's show to the direct mail 2.0 case studies. But I can tell you that as far as I can tell, they weren't set up right. They weren't set up as valid tests. Go get Bob Stone's book if you don't want to talk to me. That's fine. I can tell you that I went around Namoa because I offered to do a testing session at Namoa, and I said, I don't think people are testing as much as they should. Now, there are people at Namoa who really know testing. I'm not saying that there aren't, okay? But in general, they didn't have that as a speaking as a seminar. So I went around and talked to some of the big mailers that I could find. One of them said something really interesting, which was that their CFO doesn't like testing because if we hold out a couple of tens of thousands of names, or if we mail them a different offer that isn't as strong, we'll have actually reduced the profitability of the overall mailing. And that's true. It is true. And so the marketing person said they don't want us to test because they know that one will win and one will lose. And they don't want us to mail the loser because it will erode the overall profitability of the company. But how do you know which one's going to be the winner and loser? If you mail 100% of, it's like that. The CEO should be fired. And I know who they are. I think we're even connected. But see, you don't have to mention the names. You don't have to mention which company. It's a really, really reputable company. And those are the kind of answers I got around Namoa, that even the best mailers in the world don't test as much as they'd like because people don't understand the testing. And so I'm going to do something wild. I used to do a thing, and this is back in the 90s, I would say, 25 years ago. And I used to have a deal that for whoops. We got to stop. Okay, got to stop. I want to first say that USPS paid me $16,000 for a 1-hour training session with their salespeople. And that was just a couple of years ago. And so I don't have a problem having a pretty good rate. Okay. My normal rate these days is $8,000 per day, but I used to do a $5,000 come in, look around audit. And we had a lot of fun. We changed some industries on just that $5,000 thing. I have case studies, absolutely, where we changed companies. We changed their valuation by multiples of 10 just with that. And so it can be a great value. It usually is a great value. I'd like to offer that to clients of Direct Mail 2.0, clients of Postcard Mania, clients of Andrew Ettinger, if you'd like. I'll offer that to clients of my. I have a lot of great WDMA supporters that are printers. I'll offer to, if you work with any of the printers, and if you don't know, give me a call. Scott Engelhaus is wondering why he should continue to support WDMA. I'll work with those at this special rate, $5,000. It's not the 16, it's not the 8. It's a price that I shouldn't even mention on air, but I want to offer it to Brad. I want to offer it to my friend Mike out in San Francisco. I want to offer it, and it's basically a best practices look at your company. Okay, so let's get this industry back to where it used to be. Always test something. Always test something. That was what Vic Hunter told me. The first principle, always test something. And it needs to be statistically valid. It needs to be well thought out. It's not just mail one thing and then a couple of weeks later mail something else. That's not the way they play the Super Bowl. They put two teams head to head on the same field on the same day. And they even switch ends in case there's a wind or there's funny weather or who knows what. The lighting is bad. They switch ends so that they keep the thing an even playing field. That's the key to testing. Okay? And if you say, well, who is this guy anyway? Well, I do have a master's in the philosophy of science, and I know how to set up field valid experiments. And I would suggest to your clients, to your customers, the customers of your company, that if they want to get in on this, they need to sign a release that says we can release some of the information of the test. We're not going to say you can say who, what, or when, but not all three. Okay, you just can't, and that's fine. I'm happy to keep it confidential, but I also want to emphasize that we need to share the principles. Okay, so on that note, we're going to get over to on that note, if we ever get off of here, let's get over to the PDF. And so I was talking about advertising, and yesterday's show we were talking about how you have to tell the truth in advertising. I think probably the real story is there's a sucker born every minute. Now that's attributed to P.T. Barnum, who for a long time I think had his show in Baraboo, Wisconsin, which is not far from here at all. He would have it in Florida and then in the summer come up here. P.T. Barnum, there's a sucker born every minute. Okay, but the true story is that a guy named George Hull, okay, countless hours of research for the show, sculpted a 10-foot long block of gypsum into a giant, the Cardiff Giant. And he buried it, then discovered it, and put it on display. Okay? And his hoax, the petrified American Goliath. Okay? And most people were convinced it was a petrified man. And he even went to the extent of having pores put into the skin of this statue. Others thought maybe it was a statue put there by the Jesuits hundreds of years earlier. But here's a picture of the Cardiff Giants. You can see it without any extra payment for today. Okay, then Hannum, a guy named Hannum, they don't have many details about him, purchased the Cardiff Giant in 1869. When was it made? Let's see if it says. No, but this is from Nicholas DeFonzo's book, The Water Cooler Effect. Okay? And he was connected with the Rochester Institute of Technology. For all you printers, you should know about that. Okay, and so Harnum purchased it in 1869. P.T. Barnum tried to buy it, but he wasn't able to, so he created his own replica, just a simple replica. Here's his post. See if we can read this. It's hilarious when I did read it. Let's see if I can get it. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, taller than Goliath that David slew. 10 foot, 4.5 inches tall, weighs 90 pounds. P.T. Barnum offered $150,000 for the giant, the most valuable single exhibit in the world today. Now there's some advertising, right? Okay, there's some advertising. So Hannum sued Barnum for defamation, claiming that he was lying about Hannum who had the true statue. But it turns out that Hull turned up and confessed to having created the sculpture himself and fabricated the whole story. So the judge ruled in Barnum's favor. In other words, you can't accuse me of being a liar when you're a super liar. And but Hannum was correct. Barnum's customers were suckers for believing his bogus story. But so was Hannum, who paid a handsome fee for a phony sculpture in the first place. It seems that everyone believes a little too eagerly, especially if they want to believe it. Okay? And that's going to set up tomorrow's story, which is why you should consider framing to influence decision making, from Summer Gould. And this is basically telling people what they want to believe. Right? So, and it's also about the way you say it, right? And so, just a clue down here, for high-end cooking supplies, call your prospects a foodie or gourmet. So I'm going to call you people who actually tune in. I'm going to call you direct marketers. Do I believe it? No. Check out my seminal definition of direct marketing. Direct marketing is testing. Bob Stone agreed. He said, I don't know how we could have left that out. It's not measurement. Measurement is pointless unless you measure the right things. It's testing. Okay? Bob says, you're so right, John. I can't believe we left that out. Okay? So I'm going to call you direct marketers. And I'm going to tell you, right? USPS, the #1 mailer in the world, paid me $16,000 for 1 hour of my time. There was preparation and stuff, some travel. Nevertheless, I'm not going to charge you that. I'm not going to charge you the $500 an hour that I should. I'm going to give you the special rate. I'm going to come out for a day, or we can do it on a Zoom. I'm going to come out for lunch, stay over, because the second day is the most important. For some reason, you percolate overnight. I don't know why, but all the good ideas come out the second day. And we're going to write up a little report, and we're going to set up your testing. We're going to set up a program for testing for a year and make sure that you're learning something. And I'll even go over the results with you. Okay? So that is setting a price, setting your highest price, then setting a lower price, then setting the real price. It's called framing. We're going to talk about that tomorrow, and we'll talk about this offer tomorrow. Okay, I've talked long enough. I hope you get mad. I really appreciate the comments by Morgan and by
75% of our
Morgan and Brad. And oh, by the way, Sandy Hubbard liked the frog illustration that frogs in frying pans jump out when it gets hot. They do not stay in there and get fried. That is the dumbest thing. I don't know how it got started, but it's another one of these urban legends that sound so good that are completely wrong. Completely wrong. Okay? The frog does not jump. The frog does not stay in a hot pan. Frogs are cold-blooded. They have an incredible sensitivity to external temperature. It's just dumb. I checked it out with a biologist, and whoever got that started sounds good. Like most advertising, sounds good. It's completely a lie. Have a great day. Let's do some testing together. Again, if you're a client of Direct Mail 2.0, I give you the special deal. If you work with Postcard Mania, we can set it up. I'm happy to work with them too. Mike Gunderson, my friend. I really like Mike. Let's see some real tests. Let's show the advertising world that we mean business, that this stuff can make a fortune. And I'm working on my 3rd edition of my book, and maybe this is why I'm so fired up about it. My 3rd edition is going to have pages and pages of valid tests and how they turned businesses around, how they made millions of dollars with testing. It's the only real differential direct marketing has. Have a great day. Bye-bye.